When I grew up, I always knew that I loved business. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do something for myself in my life, to somehow be my own boss. But I never knew what direction or path I was going to take to get me to that position. But I knew I would do it deep down. And fast forward to the age of 18, that's actually what I ended up doing. I ended up achieving some pretty big things for my age, um, which was awesome. I was able to work with several big brands on social media, achieve some big stuff on social media, and with social media marketing. Um, and I think I was quite lucky for my age. I was able to land several four-figure and several five-figure contracts with um, big companies like Panasonic, Fiverr, several UK banks, Monday.com, quite a few companies. But the truth is, on the outside, while this might all look amazing and I achieved crazy things by the age of 18, there's actually a lot more to it because I'm in the rare position that I was actually able to make a significant chunk of money at a young age, but that isn't the sort of thing that commonly happens to young people in society. Often it will take them maybe into their mid 20s to start seeing any sort of decent money, if that. Um, and while it's been great, I've definitely made some mistakes along the way. And there are definitely a few things that have come that you wouldn't expect that will come when you make a substantial sum of money at a young age. So, in this video, what I want to do is share some of the mistakes that I've made along the way of getting to the point where I earn six figures by the age of 18. I'm 19 now, by the way. But I also want to share some of the lessons that I've come along with that, which I think will be very valuable because these are things that I would have wanted to tell my younger self before going into all of this. So part one, I just want to quickly give you a bit of my story. How did I end up making six figures? So from a very young age, I've always been into creating content. I've been a creative person. I was always into acting and performing arts, but I also was very much into like filmmaking, making YouTube videos. That's something I always loved doing. I would make Minecraft videos as a kid, stop motion animations, little films with my friends. I loved being creative. I was also quite musical. I'd make like music and rap songs, just anything to explore my creative passion. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I was very into entrepreneurship, buying and selling stuff, going to charity shops, buying things cheap and selling them for more money, selling sweets in school. I think I started that maybe in year 7 or 8, and it continued to happen on and off school. I would always go through seasons where I'd start selling things. So I've had these two things. I was creative and quite entrepreneurial. And throughout school, I would start various different businesses. Often, a lot of them were like Instagram based. So, started some Instagram theme pages. I bought and sold an Instagram theme page once. I started different clothing brands, drop shipping brands, blogging, just tons of things. Most of them failed, but I did learn a lot through them, and I'm always glad that I did start doing those. But the point where everything really started to change was when I was in year 10 and it was lockdown and it was online school. I heard, I think it was Gary Vee talking about the fact that TikTok was a really underrated platform at the time. It was really great to be on TikTok because there was a lot of attention, but not a lot of people creating content. And that meant if you did create content, it was quite easy to get big. So I started creating some videos on TikTok around my side hustles and around basically just sharing things that I was learning about, specifically money and business. I would listen to podcasts or read books or watch YouTube videos and just consolidate that information into short 30 to 20-second TikToks and put them out there. And I started doing this, and from the get-go, I was instantly surprised because these videos started to do very well. Well, relatively for me, because in the past, all I'd ever experienced is maybe 30 views or 50 views on a YouTube video. But these TikToks that I was posting were getting 5,000 views, 6,000 views in just a matter of hours, which for me was crazy. So I just ran with it. I had a lot of time to do it. In my day with online school, wasn't really doing a lot. So I just kept on posting these videos. And it worked out really well. I was able to learn a lot, create a ton of content. I was doing maybe some days like 4 or 5 videos, just getting out content. Didn't really care like about making money or anything. It was just I was getting some views, and I really enjoyed creating the content. And then certain things started to happen. Certain opportunities came my way. So I grew it. I think by year 11, I was on about 50,000 followers, and that slowly grew throughout year 11. There were some periods where it kind of went down a bit, some periods where it was a bit stagnant, and then it would pick up a bit. But like, I think the first time where I ever realized, okay, this is actually quite cool, was I managed to get myself invited to the opening of my local cinema. They had redeveloped the building, and they were doing a grand opening for the press in the village or the town where I live. They'd invited a bunch of people, and I managed to get invited because I sent them an email saying, I'd love to create some content when the cinema opens or whatever. And they were like, yeah, sure, come along and we'll invite you to the opening event. It was awesome. My name was on the guest list. I got to take a mate to come and film with me. They gave us unlimited popcorn, snacks, all evening, hot dogs. We got exclusive screenings. We ended up having our photos taken, me and my mate, and they got put in the local paper. And that was just so cool. And that was one of the first times where I realized this like platform that I've created has actually gotten me somewhere. And that was awesome. And I felt really inspired by that. At this point, I wasn't making too much money. I started dabbling a little bit with affiliate marketing on my TikTok. And also very early on, I did sell some digital products. And I think I'd ever made like a couple £100. So, it was good for my age, but I hadn't really gone at it with the intention of making money. It was more just I really enjoyed it, okay? But when did things start to change? Well, it was really just around the time I was doing my exams, GCSEs, although I had them a lot easier because I was one of those COVID years where they basically did exams in the classroom and they weren't really exams. It was just like end of topic tests. They were dead easy compared to the actual exams because they'd like dumb down the content. So around that time, I started to actually research what goes into making a really viral TikTok video, like things like retention and hooks and different editing styles. And when I really started paying attention to that and basically looking at the people who were doing well on TikTok, like really sort of getting millions of views and replicating their styles into my own style, it worked really well. And soon enough, some of these videos went from getting maybe 6,000 views, if I was lucky, 10,000 views, to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views in a very short period of time. And basically almost overnight, I went from maybe like 70,000 followers to 140,000 followers. And then the growth just skyrocketed from there. It just went up and up and up. And when I was 16, it was after I'd finished my GCSEs, but when I was 16, on that sort of gap between doing your GCSEs, which is like your final test in year 11 when you're 16 in the UK, before starting college, which is your final 2 years of education, there's a long little gap in the summer. In that summer, I hit 1 million followers, and it felt crazy. It felt like, genuinely, that time felt like I was living in a dream. It just didn't feel real. Like, suddenly all of these things I'd hoped for all my life were happening. And then when I sort of got the million followers, then sort of the money started to come in. Brands started to reach out. The first big brand deal I did was with a company called ZipRecruiter. And they had sponsored a few podcasts that my dad had listened to. So he was like, you could try and charge them quite a bit. And for my age, I charged them a good amount of money. Looking back, it was nowhere near enough. But you live and you learn. And yeah, so basically throughout college, I started to do TikTok as like basically my full-time job. I was getting loads of brand deals with various different financial companies. And I'll create videos for them as well as creating content for my own page. And it was doing well. And I had a lot of opportunities come my way. A lot of brands wanted to work with me. I had some other successes. I helped my dad grow on TikTok, but that's maybe a story for a different time. And I did all of that alongside doing my A-levels. And there were times during my A-levels where I was literally like, I should quit my A-levels and just go full-time on this, because there were times I had more work coming my way than I could actually handle. But I still managed to somehow stay dedicated to my studies alongside doing A-levels, which is, looking back, I don't quite know how I did it. But I think when you just force yourself to do something like that, it ends up working out. So I did, and I kept on going with A-levels and extracurricular stuff as well. So I was still doing performing and various different things like that. So, and I was also at the same time, kind of around the time I started to get big on TikTok, just before then, I got in the relationship with my girlfriend. 3 years on, we're still together now. So I also had the time with my girlfriend, building our relationship during that time where I was doing TikTok as essentially my full-time job. And just I kept on getting more brand deals, a little bit of other work, kind of consultancy stuff, a little bit creating ads for companies. It's all kind of under the same sort of bucket as short form content, social media marketing. And yeah, so I was some months definitely earning more than probably what my teachers made. And it was crazy, but you're never really like prepared as a young person to earn that much money at such a young age. It's just pretty much unheard of. I was definitely in the 0.01% of people my age. So that is where I got to, and then I finished my A-levels a couple months ago, and now I've been doing it full time ever since. And it's been a learning curve. Doing TikTok full time. It's definitely a different route compared to most people. Most people my age are doing uni or some sort of apprenticeship or maybe taking a gap year. For me, I just went straight into still creating content. So here are the things that have happened since and what I've learned. So number one, while on the outside, it may look like I have my life all figured out and I've made all of this money and I've worked with all these brands and I'm really ahead of most people, I still essentially feel like probably how most 19-year-olds feel. Like I don't really have a clue what I want to do with my life. I have ideas of like what I like doing in the short term. Like I like helping people with social media. I like my page is about sort of teaching what school doesn't. So I like to help teach the skills, particularly around money and finance, that school didn't teach people. But like some days I still feel pretty lost, if I'm completely honest, about what I want to do in my life. And while on the outside it can look like, oh, I've got it all figured out, I've made all this money, I still don't really feel like I exactly know what I'm doing, or there can be a bit of imposter syndrome within that. So yeah, the second thing is, I feel like with making all this money, I definitely could have managed my money better. And like it's weird because I make content a little bit around finance, but I was more just sharing what I learned as I went along. And I'm no expert, and I've never been an expert. The thing that I'm good at is creating TikTok videos around things that I'm interested in. But the ways I could have managed my money better is probably just keeping better records. Even now, I just need to keep better records of my expenditure and stuff like that, particularly for my like self-employed side of things and taxes. It's not that I never had enough money for taxes. I've always been pretty good with that, but it just could have been better. And there have been times where it's felt a bit stressful because I've got to get this tax return done or whatever. I'm someone who I tend to be over anxious about things like that. So if I could have gone back, the advice I'd give to myself is just be very, very good at managing your money and your finances. And beyond that, aside from like taxes and just keeping better records of what you're spending and stuff, so you don't have to scramble when you and get sort that out all really quickly before the tax season approaches. The second thing I would have done is kept myself to a stricter budgeting philosophy and mindset. And what I mean by that is every time I get paid, when I did get paid in school or college, I would just go and primarily invest that money back into my business, which is a good thing. Like I bought a nice setup. I hired some friends occasionally to work for me or edit with me. I hired editors, and that helped a lot. But sometimes I think I was too focused on investing into my back into my business that I forgot to actually put some of that money, just pay it to myself and invest that aside just into savings or something. Because I now recognize as a 19-year-old the value of just, if you can consistently save just a portion of your income, no matter what, throughout time, it gives you freedom and flexibility in your life. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. And like, it's not that I've been reckless with my money. I don't spend my money on like stupid things, or not stupid things, just things that often my friends say if they were to have earned as much money, they would have bought like clothes, or designer shoes, or maybe a really crazy car or something. I'm not like maybe I'm a slightly materialistic, because I think we all are to a certain extent, but I'm not like mega materialistic. I don't like going on shopping sprees or anything like that, and I don't think I've ever spent my money on those things. Um, but yeah, I would have just sort of maybe been a bit more tighter with budgeting. So when I pay myself, I would have put a certain portion of that money into savings, a certain portion straight into investments, and I do that now, or I'm trying to get better at it. But that's what I would have done from the get go, from even those first couple hundred of pounds that I made way back when I was 15, 16. That's what I should have done, because that's a philosophy that will stay with you through your life. But at the time when I was, especially like there were days where, or months where I was making just stupid money, it felt like this money that came in was almost like endless, and you never feel like it's going to stop. Which obviously it will dry up, and we'll get onto that later. Lesson 3 that I kind of learned or found out about myself is I do suffer a lot from the fear of instability within my career. So my job is essentially freelancing for different companies, doing brand deals, doing consulting, and there is not a lot of stability in that. Some months can be really great, and I'll get approached by loads of companies, but all of the work that I do is short-term projects, very like, it's almost very last-minute things. Like they want to do a campaign, they're trying to find some influencers, and it all just happens very quickly. Like tomorrow, I could be emailed by a brand and land a brand deal for a substantial amount of money, and within the next 2 weeks that video will be sent out to them and approved, and the money will be paid. But I have no clue if that's going to happen or not. And there can be months where just nothing really much comes in. Or what's even can be even more annoying is, but it's just part of the game, right, is there's always so many things that might have happened or could have happened. Like I've been approached by loads of companies, like, I don't know if I can say, but I'll say it, like Amazon, or a lot of big banks in the UK. Even the bank that I originally like set up my bank account with, they were going to do some sort of big campaign with me, and they were going to get me to come in and talk with the people at their offices. So often there'll be loads of cool opportunities that come to me that like we talk about with the companies, but just nothing ever comes of it. And that can be pretty annoying. So even though there are some months where I make great money, there are other months where I'm like barely making any. So it's always a bit, there's that dilemma in my head. How much of this money do I keep and save and reinvest? Or how much of it can I spend, because you just don't know what's coming in or not. So it can be hard to get that consistency. And I do feel like if I just built my way slowly up in a job and just slowly made consistent money every month, then maybe that fear would have been less. But on the flip side of that, I am in control of my own life, and I can do what I want in my day, and I have so much freedom. And for me, I almost think that's probably worth any cost in a way. Do you see what I mean? Because having freedom and flexibility, I think, is the ultimate form of wealth. So this is just one thing. I do suffer with this fear of instability and non-consistent revenue, and I do want to make a business, or my business, that can create consistent revenue. But I am able to get by. I am able to be smart with my money, and I do have freedom because of the career I chose, or ended up. I don't even feel like I chose this career. I feel like I more just ended up having this career, which is fair enough. It's 18 minutes now, so this is going to be a long video, but who cares? Lesson 4 that I've learned about myself is sometimes I fear that I'm just riding a wave. I think, will this last? And I think a lot of people can feel like that. And then I do think back and I think, well, I did take a long time to get here. I did build up a lot of sort of videos back in the day that never paid me. So I did have to work for where I got. But then I suddenly just found this wave that I rode, and it was basically TikTok, short form content. I was there right at the very start, creating videos. I knew how to do it well, and I basically got caught up in this wave of brands giving me money for brand deals, and there have been people that have said to me, you know, you got to be careful because you know you're only young for so long, and when your looks go away or you get older, people might not be interested in you. Or they might just say, you know, this is just a trend or a fad that you're riding, something short that isn't going to last. And it might be. And I've I've come to the realization that what I'm going to do in 5 years time from now, or 1 year's time, even probably 6 months, will likely look very different to what I'm doing now. And I also need to be okay with the fact that I'm young and this could all go away. I could completely not earn any money for the next couple years, and that would be okay. And the thing is, that's normal. The position I'm in now is very strange for a 19-year-old to be in. And it could be a wave, and I'm always happy to admit that it is. The good thing is I have created a lot of contacts, and built my network out to an extent where I hope if this suddenly did all dry up, or if TikTok got banned, or if my account got banned for some random reason, and I'd be basically back to square one, that I wouldn't quite be back to square one, because I'd have other people around me that I could work with. And I have been offered like jobs, especially during college, one for even like 100k a year, but I declined them because it wasn't worth it at that point. And I don't think like I'd want a job. Maybe I'd want to work as a contract for someone, so then I can outsource parts of things. But I don't like the idea of being a 9 to 5 job, going to the office. It wouldn't be good for me. So yeah, I wonder if I'm riding a wave sometimes, and I do have this fear, like kind of imposter syndrome. But is this gonna last? The fifth lesson is it can be hard to know where to go from here, or what direction is next for me, because I'm someone who's into lots of things. Like I like lots of things, and there's this term, the lady in the red dress, and it's easy, like new business ventures or opportunities or ideas can come to me from left, right, and center, and it's hard to keep focused on one thing. Because I'm so young, and because there are so many things that I want to do, it can be really hard to like figure out which way do I go, because I want to keep on building this ideally. And I always run the risk, like I don't want to get complacent with what I have, because then it could all go away. And I do get a lot of opportunities come my way all the time, but I'm also so young and I don't know quite what to do with some of these opportunities. Like I've heard that a great next step for me would be owning equity in companies, which is risky because a lot of startups will fail. But I've had 2 companies that have reached out to me offering me equity. One of them I've kind of decided I'm not going to do. The other I'm considering. But it's also new. And like as a 19-year-old, that's just something that I don't have a lot of guidance or help with, like understanding. But luckily I am part of a management now, which has been very helpful. So they manage my brand deals, the incoming emails. They do some outreach for me. And they are in many ways a kind of guide for me, so they can help me figure out what are some good steps to take in my career. But ultimately, the work does rely on me. So it's hard to know where to go. But that links into the first point of I don't really know what I'm doing with this career. Like I'm just sort of treating every day as it comes at this point and seeing what happens. Going with my passion, which I think is a good way to do things. I just sort of go with my passion. Lesson 6 that I've learned is we are all on our own journey, and a big problem that I've suffered with throughout this whole process is constantly comparing myself to others around me, especially in this network of content creators and business owners that I'm a part of. Sometimes I'll compare myself to other influencers, and I think I know deep down I can be doing as well as them. I could be putting out way more content. The content that I could be making could be way better quality, or I could have come up with ideas like that. And especially it's easy to like compare views and likes and stuff. You say you shouldn't, but any content creator at some level will, because it's like it's a clear indicator of if people are liking your content or not, or how well the content's doing to a certain extent. So it's easy to just compare yourself. And it's also easy to compare my business model with others that have got more established businesses. So people that maybe make recurring revenue every month, who have better businesses or maybe more opportunities coming their way. Especially like people who've got courses or paid communities that consistently make them lots of money. That's been a tricky thing for me, because I know content creators who have their own courses or communities often end up making a significant chunk of money. And I've dabbled with it, and I really did try and go into this idea of creating a paid community. Um, but if I'm honest, it didn't work out. And sometimes I do feel like, do I actually have the expertise to create an established business, something that I can pair alongside with my content creation? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm just interested to see. And there'll probably be a lot more failures along the way, but that's something that I'm exploring. But it's easy to compare myself to others who are already making it and doing great. So that's something that I just need to learn not to do. Or just those who get more opportunities. Like, I know for a fact when, especially in the earlier days when I first started getting big on TikTok, there were others who got different opportunities to me, better opportunities, and times that I felt I've undervalued myself maybe, and I didn't get as much money for certain campaigns as I know I could have got with hindsight. But that's okay. And like, I think what I've begun to realize is the people who I'm often comparing myself to are like 27 or 24 or 25. I'm 19 right now. So they've got a whole, you know, massive head start on me, and they know a lot more about life and about business, and they've done other stuff in their life. And relative to most 19-year-olds, I'm still doing great. So it's okay. Yeah, so I think I do just suffer from comparing myself to others around me. But I guess the important thing as well that I want, if you're still listening, and big up yourself if you're still listening, that I want to talk about is we're all on our own journey. And I think I've realized the most important thing isn't whether you're making money or not. It's about whether you're enjoying the process and you can have some level of freedom in your life. I think that is the most important thing to have. So never compare yourself to someone else, because I've always realized there's always someone that wants to be where you are right now. There's always someone that wants to be where you are right now, and everyone goes on their different journey. And there could be someone out there who just wishes they could be in my position. But what if I suddenly get my TikTok account deleted and end up having nothing in a couple years? Do you still want to be in my position now if you know that? Probably not, because you know it's all going to go away from me. And some people their journeys just take different amount of times. And I don't think actually we should be looking at money and success as the defining factor of whether you've made it or not. I saw something yesterday. It said happiness is the journey, not the destination. And I think that's the same with your career and what you do. I think if you can enjoy what you do every day and it brings you happiness, regardless of whether it makes you money or not, then you have found a great career, and that is great. The lesson 7 though is money and happiness. Does money buy you happiness? Because I've got money. So firstly, I want to say, to a certain extent, money has brought me happiness in terms of freedom. It's brought me a lot of freedom to do what I want with my life, to travel. It's given me opportunities to be with my girlfriend at times when most people wouldn't be able to because they have to go and work a job. It's been able to help me give my girlfriend a little bit of a kickstart with her sort of self-employed journey as well, which has been cool. She does a lot of the editing for me. And I think that I'm going to read out this little extract that I got from, I don't think I have the book here. Here it is. So it's this book that I've been reading. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. It's called The Psychology of Money. I might make a whole video about this. But the book has this great chapter in page 83. And the chapter's called Freedom, okay? And I'm just going to read you the first little paragraph. It's not long. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. People want to become wealthier to make them happier. Happiness is a complicated subject because everyone's different. But if there's a common denominator in happiness, a universal fuel of joy, it's that people want to control their lives. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, is priceless. It's the highest dividend money pays. And I was reflecting on that, and it's super interesting because I realized at that point I have the highest level of wealth. I'm able to make enough to get by. This season right now, I'm not earning as much as I used to. but that's okay because relatively I earn enough to, I still live at home with my parents. For my age, I'm doing all right. But beyond that, I have freedom. I can wake up today and say I can do whatever I want to do. I can go out and make. When I was younger, I had dreams of making documentaries or short films. I can pretty much just do that with my career because that's what I built for myself. Um, so yeah. And then the final lesson I want to say is 95% of what I do often feels like it fails. And I think the 5% that does work that I do ends up making me most of the money and giving me most of my rewards and the results. So an important thing that I think you'll discover along your journeys, those of you watching, is probably only 5% of what you do will end up being something that becomes very impactful. I like to use this example with Drake and with particularly Netflix. So Drake has got a ton of videos. Let me say that again. Drake has got a ton of songs online that people love. Nice for What, Passion Fruit, all of these big bangers that I could name. But along with every one of those massive smash hits are like tons and tons of other songs by Drake that he released that you basically just forgot about. He's got albums with tons of songs on them. And a lot of them are just sort of throwaway songs you listen to once, you go, yeah, that's all right, nothing crazy, and that's all right. And it's the same with Netflix. We all love their big shows. Black Mirror. What were the other ones? Money Heist. They've got a bunch of cool shows, but for each money heist that comes along, or each baby reindeer, that's a big one right now. There are maybe even like 100 or hundreds of other shows or things that they've commissioned that have got cancelled or got put on Netflix and you just forgot about. I mean, do you remember that series that got released on Netflix called Blockbuster that everyone was excited about? I watched one episode, I thought it was terrible, and never watched the rest of it, and I never hear it talked about anymore. But it's just life. You have to put out tons and tons of stuff. And it's the same with me. I have to put out tons and tons of content, try tons of different business ideas. And I will spend weeks on stuff that never sees the light of day or that I realize doesn't work. And you have to just be willing to say that's okay, that it's okay to work on stuff that never ends up doing well. There are loads of videos that I put tons of effort into that just don't do well. And it's often the videos that I don't expect to do well that do well. So you just have to be willing to just say that those failures just are lessons. They just teach you a lot about life. Drake has a lot of failures, but no one ever talks about the failures. They only talk about the big hits that he's got, and they get played on the radio all the time. So yeah, I really appreciate you watching this. What I want to do with this channel now is create more meaningful, impactful videos around teaching the things that I wish school taught me. So if you're down for that, please, please, please hit the subscribe button because I'll be very grateful to share this journey with you. I'm going to leave a link below for my newsletter. It's where I share some lessons each week that I'm learning about money. So if you want to check that out, it'll be in the link in the description. And I'm opening up my community waitlist again. So if you want to join my waitlist for my community and interact at a more personal level, that will also be linked down below. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you made it this far, 33 minutes through, leave a comment. Let me know that you were watching. And I will see you in the next video. See you later.